Hello and welcome finally to the slipcover tutorial series that I have been promising for a couple of months now. Thank you so much for your patience. I've been really busy lately, so it's taken me a while to get to them, but my mom is here. She's watching the boys so that I'm able to do this for you. Now, first of all, I want to say to you, don't be scared. It's okay. Slipcovers are not quite as hard as they seem to be. If you can sew, you will be able to make slipcovers. I'm not promising they're going to be great right off the bat. The first few slipcovers I made were pretty bad, but you're not going to learn unless you try. So just give it a try. Now, I'm assuming in starting this series that you have done some sewing, whether it's clothes or just some pillows and curtains, but you need to have some basic sewing skills. I would not suggest that the very first thing you sew ever is a slipcover. Start with a pillow, some really simple drapes, something that has just straight lines that you can get comfortable using your sewing machine or one that you're borrowing. But don't start right off the bat with slipcovers, okay? So today I'm going to teach you how to make custom piping. I get a lot of questions about this, and it's a really good skill to have. It's something that's really easy. It makes your piece look custom. It adds some great detail. You can use it for pieces that have really clean lines and a modern look, or for something that's more kind of country vintage. Can go either way. So this is a good skill to have to use on pillows or anything else. The kind of cotton cording that I like to buy is called Wright's cotton cording, and it comes in a bag like this, and it comes with 10 yards in it, and I think it's about $2.50 or so for the bag. And what's nice about this is you just grab the bag, you don't have to wait at the measuring counter to get your cording cut, and it's a good all-purpose size for slipcovers and pillows and upholstery. And you can also find it at Walmart. If your Walmart still has a sewing section, you can find it there. And you can also find it at Joann's and Hobby Lobby, a few other places. So it's called Wright's, W-R-I-G-H-T-S, and it's 6/32 of an inch cotton filler cord, or 4.8 millimeter for those of you who are on the metric system. So this is what it looks like when it's out of the bag. It's a cotton cord that's wrapped in sort of a thread webbing that holds it in a cord. It's natural, whoops, dropping it, natural cotton cording. And like I said, it's just a good all-purpose size. So this is what I buy every time I go to the fabric store. I'll grab about 5 or 6 bags, clean them out, and then kind of work through them. I do use a lot. You can use, for a chair that has a lot of piping on it and a lot of cushions, you can use about 40 yards on a chair. So when you do buy it, just go ahead and buy a lot if you're planning on doing a bunch of slip covering and making pillows and stuff. So to cover the cord, you want to pick out a fabric. It can be any fabric if you want it to match what you're upholstering in or slip covering in, or if you want it to be a complementary fabric, you can do that. I love it when you see like a white cotton twill slip cover with a dark navy blue piping or something. That looks really sharp. But you need to make sure your sewing skills are really good, because it's going to show every little thing with that when you have the light and dark contrast. So I would recommend, if it's your first time, just going with the same fabric that you're slip covering in. So any, undulation in the piping isn't going to be that noticeable. I'm going to use my white cotton, or not white, I guess it's kind of oatmealish canvas drop cloth fabric. That's what I'm going to make all of these slipcovers with. And there are a few reasons why I work with this. First of all, it's a good weight for slipcovers and upholstery. It's got a nice heavy feel. It's not going to be wearing holes in it. It's pretty solid. Definitely wouldn't recommend going out and buying a super expensive fabric, because then you'll be really sad when you mess it up and your husband might yell at you. And then because it's a nice canvas, I use the scraps in my workshop to apply stains or rub on wax, and so I really do use every little bit of it, and I get a lot of money out of these. So these are the Finish Factor drop cloths. I buy the 8-ounce weight mainly because it's pretty heavy fabric as it is. And if you go with the heavier weight, your sewing machine's going to have an even tougher time with it. When you're working with drop cloths, you need to use a heavy duty needle and have plenty on hand. I've broken 3 or 4 needles on one project. So you need to make sure you're using a nice sharp needle and have plenty in reserve. And just kind of listen to your sewing machine. If your needle is starting to really thump when it hits the fabric, that means it's dull and you need a new needle. So this is the cotton drop cloth, and you need about probably 1.5 inches or 2 inches to cover piping cording. So I'm just going to go ahead and I just kind of eyeball it. The nice thing about drop cloth is you can make one cut and then it will tear. So that's how I do all of my cutting with drop cloth. It's great. I just have to have a pair of scissors. I don't have to lay it all out and measure it and get patterns and stuff. I just cut it. So since this is a pretty short piece of fabric, and let's say I need to cover like 10 yards, well, first of all, I'd use a much longer piece of fabric. But you can connect pieces of fabric to make a longer piece. And the way you do that is you put 2 right sides together, which with the cotton canvas, there's not a right side or a wrong side. So you just stick 2 sides together, and then you want to sew a seam right here. And then it will fold outward and there'll be a seam. So I'll show you how to do that. And then we're going to wrap it around the cord and sew it on. Okay, so these 2 pieces go together, right side of the fabric together. I have a zipper foot on my machine right now, which you will definitely need one of these if you're making slip covers because it will ride over the piping. I'll show you in a minute. So we're going to go forward and backward. There you go. You hear my mom yelling at my kids. They're angels. All right, so that's how it looks. So there will be a seam there. Now, this is kind of the lazy way to do it. A lot of people will sew their piping together on a bias, and that's like the right way to do it, but I don't know. I don't do that. So if you want to get fancy, you can check it out. I think Kate from Sensational Girl does that, sews it on the bias, so you can check that out. Okay, then what you're going to do is just wrap the cording, or wrap the cording with the fabric, and of course you want to make sure the right side is out, so check where your seams are now that you've made a seam. And you're going to tuck it under the sewing machine, put the foot down. Now you see why you need a zipper foot here? This is so it will push the stitching tight against the cording. If you were using a regular foot, then the stitching would be here and this cord would just kind of flap around in all this loose fabric. Okay, now when you get to a seam, you want to make sure that it's folded open. That will make it so the seam is a little less bulky. Okay, and I'm just going to stop there because you get the idea. And see, once you have it sewn, the seam really isn't all that noticeable. You definitely want to have as few seams as possible, and I always try to kind of hide the seams towards the back or in the bottom of a cushion or something like that so they're not as noticeable. But this provides a really soft transition from one piece of fabric into another. So there's the cotton piping.